everybody, my name is Jemmy, and today I just finished my GED exams, which is the General Education Development, and I just finished it like an hour ago, or maybe 2 hours. But anyways, today I'm going to be explaining what it is and how, like any tips I'll give you, and then yeah, I'll just show you basically what it is and how to do it. So let's get started. All right, so the first one is the math, which is probably the easiest in my opinion. Lots of people say it's hard, but honestly, if you've taken the SAT, this is similar to that, so it shouldn't be too difficult. The time they give you is around 2 hours, which is 150 minutes. The topics include algebra, geometry, data analysis, number operations, and from what I remember, there's also word problems that you had to, apply the math you learned to do it. However, they aren't that challenging, and I don't think that this is like a subject you should be very concerned about. However, if you aren't sure about your math skills, then you should probably review this one. But it's not too difficult. The format of this, the questions include multiple choice, fill in the blanks, drag and drop, calculator and non-calculator problems. They do have like a piece of paper or like a laminated piece of paper for you to write on if you want to use that, and then that way you can do equations there. You can put what you're thinking, your thought process or whatever. So yeah, you can use that as well. And a tip I can give you for math is that when you use the calculator on the exam, they're going to have like an online calculator, as you can see right here. When you press this thing, it will bring up an e-calculator, and you should research the model of the calculator they give you, because then that way you would know the functions and what it can do and cannot do. I was almost like screwed over for one question because they asked about permutations and combinations. Then I forgot how to do it on the calculator. Luckily, I had time, so I was able to like play around with it, and then I found out how to do it. So yeah, definitely make sure to research the calculator before going into the test. And this is my score right here, 195 out of 200. It is my highest scoring exam. So yeah. The next one is the science part. The science part was a bit more challenging, especially if you don't take all three sciences. Well, I'll get to that later. But first, let's look at the statistics or the format of the science exam. So it'll give you 90 minutes, which is a pretty short test. That's an hour and a half. The topics include life science, physical science, earth and space science. Basically, if I were to break it down, it's physics, chemistry, biology, and then space. That's it. The skills you would need is reading graphs, analyzing experiments, and critical thinking. It's somewhat similar to the ACT, but I feel like it's a bit more in depth, and it's kind of like more challenging. It's more of like a reading comprehension. If you can read and understand the text, you only need like a little bit of outside knowledge and you should be okay. The formats include multiple choice, short answer, and drag and drop. A tip I have for this is that when you do the science, you have to make sure you, like if you don't take all three sciences, for example, or I should say 4 sciences. If you don't take all 4 sciences, you should research the other 2, or the other one that you're missing. So for example, I don't take biology and space science, so I should have researched them a lot more than what I did, because I don't have too much information. Like there was something called meiosis or something. I had no idea what that was about, so I had to guess for that question. So you should research the ones that you aren't doing, because the chemistry and physics part, that's pretty straightforward. But if you don't take a science, you should really get researching that one, prioritize that one over the other ones. The next one is social studies. Now, social studies was my lowest score, which is 169 out of 200. This is the shortest test as well, 70 minutes, so just an hour. The topics is like centered around the US, because the GED is for, the US high school. So it's US history, civics, geography, and economics. The skills you would need for this one is analyzing historical documents, like the Declaration of Independence, interpreting data, and evaluating arguments. So there's obviously going to be lots of like back and forth that you have to read through here. So you have to be good at understanding who's on what side and what they're fighting for. A tip I would give for this one is to research and understand US history, as well as how their government works, because before this, I had no idea that there was 3 branches in the US government until I researched it. And by then it was kind of like, a bit overwhelming, because I never really, I go to like, not a US curriculum school, or and so I don't really know, the US history and whatnot. So you would have to research a lot for this one, especially if you don't go to an American curriculum school. And yeah, if you do it well though, you should be able to score pretty well. So it's up to you how much you study. And now English is reasoning through language arts. I just finished this one, like, again, 2 hours ago. My score is 177, so this is my third highest scoring one. The time is the longest one by far, 150 minutes, which is 2 hours and 30 minutes, which includes a 10-minute break after section 2. There's 3 sections. There's the reading comprehension, there's the extended response, and the grammar usage. Or yeah, that's how it goes. And then the format is multiple choice, drop down, short answer, and writing an essay. A tip I have for this one is to memorize like the skeleton of the essay you're gonna write, because there's gonna be like two texts that are against each other, and you have to evaluate which one is better and why. So memorize like the structure of the essay. You can search perfect passage GED, and that will show you the perfect essay, which means it scored the maximum amount of points. So I copied the skeleton of that, and then I added my own like my own content based off of the text I was given, and I think that helped me boost my score by quite a bit. So yeah, make sure you get some memorization in. And this is my diploma. Got it 7 minutes after my final score came out. And yeah, now some extra tips before ending the video is maybe like some questions you might have, like how long do I have to wait for my score? It usually depends on the subject. For example, English took longer since it had the essay thing, but it didn't take too long. It's around 30 to 45 minutes. So, it's very fast, very quick since it's graded by computer. And then the diploma, as I said earlier, it came 7 minutes right after my English score came out, which is my last test. So yeah, it's very fast. It's very, you don't have to wait for a long time. So yeah. Now some recommended YouTube channels I will give you guys for studying is Test Prep Champions and Get Some Math. Personally, I prefer Test Prep Champions because they don't like make you fall asleep while watching the video. They actually have like some personality to them, and it's not really like just giving you a question letting you answer. It's like they're actually guiding you through it. Another thing I would recommend for you to do is to go online and go to Varsity Tutors, and then they actually have like some practice problems as well for you to do on their website. And yeah, it's actually quite useful and it's free as well, so definitely do that. And if you do pay for GED practice, I would recommend IXL because they have a lot of questions there, and you can also like keep going until you're like proficient at that skill. Now my last and final piece of advice is do not underestimate social studies. I had a really short time frame to do social studies, so I couldn't study for that long. But when I was on like the bus to school, or we had like a field trip, I was studying social studies and I still couldn't get that high of a score. So definitely do not underestimate social studies because it is like very difficult, especially if you aren't familiar with US history and US governments, like the US government already. Then yeah, you should really get to studying for that, and you should prepare like a lot of time before taking this test. Also make sure to get a lot of rest before the test date, especially for English test, because the English test, it's more about a mental game. Once you go past section 2 after the 10-minute break, your brain starts to like zone out from all of the reading you've done. So make sure you stay focused and you get a lot of like sleep before the test, so that way you don't like drift off accidentally. But yeah, that's basically it for my GED. I hope you guys do well on yours. Thank you for watching this video.